You would remember that last week we had a memorial service of the executive mayor. After the funeral, we waited a few days. We then held a memorial service of the late executive mayor as council, where we were taking away or out the name of the executive mayor from the books of council. In the Venek language, we say Ugusula Wegama. So we had to sula the Gama of the executive mayor from the books of the city of Johannesburg, and we did that ceremony in honor of the executive mayor. And immediately after that, we then prepared for this day, for today. The Structures Act does not stipulate time. The opposition parties were misunderstanding the act. The act talks about 14 days in relation to a new council. When we are setting up a new council after elections, the city manager has 14 days to call a council meeting to elect the leadership of the city. In this instance, we had the legislature, we had council, which was in place. We had council, we had the speaker of council, who is the chairperson of council. We had the chief whip of council. We also had the city manager, who was holding the executive to account in terms of service delivery. So there was no gap in terms of service delivery. The council was in operation, and the Structures Act says the executive mayor, as and when there is a vacancy, as we had, the executive mayor must be elected when necessary. So it was necessary. There was no time, there is no time frame. So I think it's section 55 of the Structures Act that says when necessary. So there was no pressure at all, because when necessary could be any time. And we really made sure that we expedite the process so that we have the executive in place. Hence, we are here today. So that's that on question 1. Then I will hand over to the executive mayor. May we sanitize? Thank you. Where's the...
Thank you very much, Speaker of Council, Councillor Mngwe, and welcome Chief Whip, Tate Mkhase. I think the questions are basically intertwined. What are the priorities, what are the plans, what are the expectations? But maybe let's start first with the issue of migrants. I think the ANC is quite clear on its policy positions. People must be in the country on the basis that they are legally in the country. They are documented. So there's no question about migrants as it relates to the policy position of the ANC. So if people are from other countries, they are in Johannesburg and they are documented, they've got their papers, we don't have a problem. But where we will have a problem is people who are in the country in Johannesburg, but who are illegal, who are not documented. Those people must then be assisted, whether they are asylum seekers and so on. So it becomes therefore a joint effort by the city, the province and national to ensure that those that are not documented are assisted if they can be assisted to be documented. If not, then the laws of the republic must apply. I don't think we have a problem there. In fact, as the ANC government a while back, we even had under the mayor's office then, Masondo and Tau, a migrant desk, because the city is alive to the fact that there are many migrants that come to the city of Johannesburg. Therefore, we've got to revive the migrant desk so that we are able to interact with the representatives of the various communities from outside the country. As it relates to the plans, I think it's important to indicate up front that we only have 3, if not 6 months to go in the term. So there is no confusion about what needs to be done, because the IDP of the city has been adopted and approved by council in May of this year. The budget has been allocated, 73.3 billion has been allocated to ensure that the plans that are contained in the IDP, including the service delivery implementation plan, are implemented. So if you follow the city, you would know. Now, this is the answer. You know that the priorities, top of them is financial sustainability. How do we ensure that the city of Johannesburg is financially sustainable so that it is able to meet its obligations? We buy water from Rand Water, we buy electricity from Eskom, but we also have to deliver all of the other services. In order for us to do all the things, the grand plans that we have, it is not possible if we do not have the financial resources. Therefore, financial responsibility is part of our top priorities that we have as a city. And there are a number of things that we have got to do to ensure that the city is sustainable. Good governance is critical because you can have all the resources that you need. But if the resources are not deployed or used in a manner that ensures that services are delivered to the people of Johannesburg, we are going to have a problem. We are going to have unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So the whole priority around good governance is important for us to ensure that we deal with malfeasance, corruption, maladministration, and all of those. Obviously, as a country, in particular as a city, we are faced with the problem of joblessness. So it's part of the things that we are zooming into as part of continuing the work already begun by the administration of the late Executive Mayor, Comrade Maku. So I'm sure you want us to say something new, and I don't think it will be fair for us to say this is the new thing, because we are in the middle of a financial year already. The IDP is already approved, the budget is approved. So if there's anything new, that can only be done in an adjustment budget if we get the election to be postponed. We can do an adjustment budget, but also adjust our plans. So I don't think there's pressure to say what are the grand plans and all that. But what I think is important is to say what can we expect. Yes, there are plans, but what can we expect from you as the man and the team? And the expectation we want to put out there to the people is that we've got more than 30,000 employees of the city. We have approved a budget of 73.3 billion. We have had an experience in the past financial year of under expenditure of the money. And when you underspend on the money is taken away by National Treasury. So the one thing that we want to ensure happens in this remaining period is to ensure that the money is spent on the things that it has been budgeted for. For instance, we budgeted 175 million rand in the past financial year to provide food for the food insecure in our city. The money was not spent by the relevant department. So what we are going to be doing without any fear or favor is to ensure that those who are assigned the responsibilities to deliver the services do so. So it means if people don't play ball, if people don't spend the money, we don't have time to waste. They will have to go and sit at home. If we have to meet them at the labor court, we will do so, because it is unfair that there is a program, there are people that are expecting that at the end of the day, they will have food on their table. You sit as an executive, you don't deliver the food, and then you go home to your family and you have a nice meal, whilst the rest of the people are suffering. So we are going to ensure that the plans that are there are implemented, the budget is spent. But we are going to be an administration that is not in the office. And the late Executive Mayor used to say to me, you have a nice job as MMC Finance because your stakeholders are in the JSE and in the Ivory Towers. You're not like the others who have to put on their work suits. But that's not what we are going to be doing, sitting in the offices wearing ties like we have today. So when you see me tomorrow without a tie, don't say, look at this Executive Mayor, it's not serious, not taking the city serious. We will be in our work suits every day on the ground, dealing with the problems that the people are experiencing. And I think it's important, Chief Whip, to really indicate that some of the officials have a tendency of not responding timeously to the service delivery failures in our city. I'll make a typical example. One night I arrive in my neighborhood, I find the neighbors doing a patrol there. I go and encourage the guys, then they say to me, we've got a problem of street lights, the councillor has reported them. It's been months, if not a year, that the street lights are not working. I pick up a phone, I phone the COO of City Power to report the same problem. The problem is attended to within 48 hours, the lights are now on. So why should it be that it must be somebody with some title that must make things happen? So we don't want that attitude from officials who say, well, it's a ward councillor, it's a member of the community, we'll see, they will just give them a reference number, then we will see it later. Everybody, an ordinary resident who logs a call with our centers, with our depots, those things must be attended to within the stipulated turnaround times. So if you don't play ball, if you don't do your work, you don't have space in our administration, we don't have time. Because the ANC expects of us and all the other political parties to have something to show to the electorate when we come to the next election. So we're not going to be hugging each other and saying, no, it's fine, it can be done later. It must be done and it must be done now. So I think we will leave it at that for now, and Tatisi, if there are more questions, we will talk to those other things. But the priorities are many. You can go to our website, the plans are there. Issues of dealing with the effects of the COVID pandemic is one of the things. We are developing a financial and economic recovery plan in line with province and national to ensure that we respond to the pandemic. One of the questions being asked is there was looting. What is it that the city is going to be doing in response in assisting those shopping malls and every other business that has been affected? We have already instructed the team to come up with incentives, things like a rates holiday for the shopping centers to ensure that we at least provide some relief. So the plans are there, economic growth as one of the things, issues of making Johannesburg a smart city, integrated human settlements. How do we deal with the biggest problem we have in Johannesburg of the sprawling and the expansion of informal settlements, the shacks that are all over? And I was saying to the national officials of the ANC in the interview that if you take an aerial view of Johannesburg prior 2016 and take an aerial view of the same city now, you'll be shocked, you'll be surprised to see that we are really a city that is not aesthetically what we want a world-class African city to be. So we'll have to ensure that we deal with the issue of land invasion, but not just deal with it. People have invaded, you send JMPD and Red Ends or whoever to remove them. But what is the alternative? And the alternative is on the table of providing people with service sites so that they can build for themselves. You regulate land use in the city. So the plans are there, but for today's purpose, I thought we should just say at a high level, our attitude is that we are on the ground every day, working with the people to solve their problems, but critical is to ensure that the officials who have been assigned the responsibility, who have been given the budget, do what is expected of them. That's the least we can ask from them. We're not asking more from officials. We're just saying, you have been given a job ticket to go and fix a street light. Can you go and fix it? Thank you. Speaker over.
Thank you very much. I wanted the executive mayor to first respond on the question of being the son of a migrant. So he has outlined the status of migrants, but I think it is important, especially for the citizens, because there's a perception out there that says that the executive mayor is not a citizen. I want to put it into perspective that the executive mayor has been born and bred in the country, in Johannesburg in particular. And in his early age, he fought for the liberation of our people. So he has been in different structures that fought for the liberation of the citizens and the nation of South Africa. So he's been in the youth structures, he served in all the MDM structures that fought for our freedom today. So he is not a migrant. He is born of a migrant. As he says that he is a son of a migrant. And he has explained the status of migrants, that you have legal migrants and you also have illegal migrants. So his dad was legally in the country. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Mr. Matongo Senior lies there in Avalon Cemetery.
Yes.
Colleagues, we don't have much time. We have
I think there's still one there.
Yeah, we have to allow the leadership to engage on other council business. I will open for 2 more, and then what will happen is that tomorrow today we will be issuing a media advisory again to say tomorrow we have another session.
Yes.
Which is an inauguration session where we will be able to engage further with the entire leadership that will be introduced to yourselves tomorrow at the Civic Theatre. So you look out for the advisory and make sure that you attend tomorrow. Yes. Let's take the head that was up.
We'll issue it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, I would like to find out how soon can you expect you to appoint your Mayoral committee and what criteria are you going to use in appointing your team? And what you have to say to people who are already saying that you are likely, you are going to be more of a critical mayor, and that you are likely to use an incumbency to basically position yourself for re-election come the elections next year. What do you have to say to this? Thank you.
You have another question? Going? Do we have? Gone. So this is the last session, and the leadership will respond, and then we can close the session and engage again tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Loyolo and the colleagues. The Mayoral Committee should be announced or finalized by tonight, because we don't have time. We must put the team together. So tonight when we sleep, there should be the 10 members of the Mayoral Committee. But remember, we're in a government of local unity, coalition with other parties, so we have got to consult with them. We have already done that from the ANC side in terms of who are the people that the ANC needs to put forward, and the other parties have also done that. It's just a matter of tying the loose ends, agreeing on a number of things. But by tonight, the team should be there. The criteria, obviously, it's firstly you must be a councillor. But even if you are not a councillor, if the party decides to remove a sitting councillor, replace you with another party person who then becomes a councillor, it's still fine, as long as before we get to the ceremony tomorrow, the speaker would have ensured that you are sworn in. So you should be a councillor, but your skills, your qualifications and experience is important. So we're not necessarily looking at starting afresh, changing the team in its entirety. I think in the ANC we always believe in this thing called continuity. Whilst there's continuity, also there must be change. But because we don't have the luxury of time, there shouldn't be a lot of changes, because that will then upset the smooth movement forward. Well, using incumbency to campaign to be the next mayor in 2022. No, the ANC decides as to who will become the next mayoral candidate of the ANC. When we went to the interviews with the national officials, at the end of the interview, I made the point that if the ANC so wishes that I become executive mayor now, it's a task I will execute now until the end of the term. But I think that will be the end. And then I think Comrade Mantashe said to me, no, it's not for you to tell us. So we will wait for the ANC to pronounce itself. It's not that because we went for the interview, it's automatic that Matongo will be the candidate for mayorship on behalf of the ANC. We still have to go back. If the regional executive committee in Johannesburg says Matongo's name must be submitted, I'll still go through the same process. But yeah, the ANC will decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Speaker of Council. Thank you, Chief Whip. Colleagues, thank you very much. We will now release the leadership. And then let's meet again tomorrow for further engagement on other issues.
Yeah,
because the city will be making some announcements. The Chief Whip wants to say a word or two.
10.
Can we allow on media side, the leadership would be leaving because there are guests that the mayor will have to speak to. They've been there for some time. So if you want to be organized where you want to speak to them, you'll have to go to the officials of the city. Then they'll reorganize, please, so that we don't have people just pushing around just to speak to them. And let's be organized and be able to service our people.
We're starting at 10 tomorrow, no?
Tomorrow we're starting at 10. Can the media remain behind, please? Can all members of the media remain behind?